Hey, thanks for being here today. So we've got Kyle, who has been one of our clients for the last few months. And what's really cool about him is that he was able to open up his fourth location confidently because of the work that we were doing together. So welcome, Kyle. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here.
Awesome, man. So tell us a little bit more about when you first started working with us, when you found us. What was life like for you? What was the business like? Just kind of give us a little snapshot there of what was going on.
Yeah, so my mindset when I got on board with you guys or first got introduced with you guys was just kind of growing and buying and getting as many, restaurants as I could without necessarily knowing my numbers.
Hmm.
So I was basically on at the next store to buy, but I wasn't running the stores very profitably.
Yeah.
Um, because I didn't know how to run them correctly.
Yeah.
I didn't know my KPIs, my prime cost. They were kind of out of control. And I was able to work with you guys and understand exactly what I needed to do. And it was refreshing to know that we started from the basics. And it's kind of a ground level up process with you. So,
Yeah.
we went all the way from the beginning to making sure that our employees were, graded and
Yeah.
making sure that we had the right people in place and then had the right systems in place. And then we
Yeah.
really hammered down and started looking at our KPIs, which is our prime cost.
Yeah.
And they were a little out of whack. And some were good at one or two stores, and the other stores were crazy.
Yeah.
So it really allowed me to gain structure in the
Nice.
business, look at it from 30,000 feet, but also go all the way down to creating a basic checklist of exactly what to do, when to do it,
Yep.
and then kind of build the groundwork from there to expand and grow.
Yeah. And what's so interesting about you is that there's a couple of pieces I want to pull out there that are really important for anyone watching is that a lot of people they just want to grow and everyone thinks, oh, if I just have more stores and more stores and more stores, the money will come later. And I say that because I was one of those guys. Dave, who's our client success director, he was one of those guys. We were all like, we got to get more, got to get more. And then eventually you realize you're like, wait, I've got all these stores. We're doing millions in sales. We're not making any money. What the hell? So there's a point where you figure that out, and that's when you actually need to realize you need to open up more locations profitably. And it makes and I'm glad that obviously we did the work that we've done early on because I see way too many people scale so fast and then get into trouble, take out a whole bunch of loans and do things unscalably or unsustainably, and they end up going under or having to sell at a loss. And it's just a really, really tough thing. So I'm glad that's not what happened here. So the other point that I wanted to point out is when we first met, you were really, really interested. You thought your problem was sales. You thought you're like, man, we need to get more sales. We need like that was what we talked about in our very first call. Remember that? I think we were talking about like advertising on the back of receipt rolls at a grocery store. If am I remember that correctly?
Yep.
So what's so interesting about that is you're right, we do take a ground up approach because part of it is like even if we do all this marketing and bring an extra 10 or 20K a month in sales, if your prime costs are still out of whack, you're still going to be unprofitable if you're at 80% for your food and your labor. You know what I mean? So we always want to make sure we can do it sustainably and scalably and do it consistently. And once we put all those pieces in place, that's a big part of it. And I think a big part of it for you too was working with the management team, making sure that they knew what to do, but also for you, how do you hold them accountable when you're not there every day? Right? Because how do you scale without being able to hold them accountable because they're the ones that are executing the things on the ground? So, no, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about what are the biggest wins, the biggest changes you've seen now. Obviously, tell us about your new location and the decision you made to buy that one too.
Yeah. So the biggest change that I've made in the business is holding weekly manager meetings. That is huge for me. And it's honestly, it's not only helping me feel better about how the stores are being ran, but it's creating so much more buy-in from my managers.
Mm.
I've got four managers, one manager at every store who I just brought in the fourth one this last week on our weekly call. And it's really cool to see the shift in excitement when, you know, we bring on a new store and everyone's super excited, and it kind of is a top down look, and it creates buzz around all the other employees too. So when the managers are excited about things and excited about impacting the business, then it kind of funnels down to all the other employees as well. So I would say that's been the biggest win. And you know, I track our numbers weekly, and then I'm putting that on our managers to start tracking numbers as well, creating more buy-in. And you know, I can just tell that my managers are going to stick around for a lot longer because we're doing this versus them kind of just being in the dark about what's going on. So just that alone, and then also creating a bonus structure based off of
Nice.
our managers, getting our prime costs to where they need to be,
Yeah.
um, and then allowing them to bonus. So really giving them that freedom and flexibility to be able to affect the numbers is
Yeah.
has really exploded everything. And I mean, it brings more excitement for me too,
Yeah.
to know that I'm just a lot more involved, even though I
Yeah.
was a lot more involved in the other stores. But I just feel like the communication
Yeah.
and that teamwork is really there for our, you know, our leadership team, and then of course that funnels down to everyone as well.
Yeah. So really you're taking on the CEO hat and actually guiding the ship, as opposed to what a lot of people do, which is they put their head down and they work in the business way too much, but then don't provide that strategic direction, which is honestly what you need to do when you have as many locations as you do. So, oh, that's awesome. So, Dave, you work directly with Kyle through his journey. So tell us, what are some of the biggest wins and things that you've noticed about his journey?
Yeah, it was great working with Kyle to see all those results happen and to see where he's at now. Kyle, yeah, like kudos to you for getting that new location open and just hearing in your voice the confidence that you have in doing that now and knowing that you're making all the right choices and how you're doing it. Um, one thing that I love the most is that, especially when we have multi-unit operators already, they're already, if you've opened 3 locations and you've got the sales to back it up, and like you're already at a high level, you're operating at a pretty high level as it is, but recognizing that the most simplest little tactical changes make a huge difference in everything. So literally starting from those weekly meetings, right? That was, and that's literally something we do in the first couple of weeks, is set up that system for you and help you set that up and show you how and why to do it. And the way you tackle that and immediately saw the benefits and how that was going to affect things at the highest levels of your business, that was the beauty for me. The simple tactical things that we started early on that you dove right into and developed over time was the beauty, to the point now where not only are you having your consistently your weekly manager meetings, you're developing and leveling up your leaders in your organization, but now you're probably, or did you already start, or you're now looking at training a regional manager so that you have somebody at that level as well? Is that right?
Yeah, that's my next step.
Yeah.
I'm trying to groom, you know, one of these managers to step up and become that regional manager. I actually worked for Enterprise Rent a Car back in the day, and they always hired from within, and I love that you know concept of, you know, grooming someone and evaluating them and letting them know, hey, I'm looking for a regional. I'm going to be holding, you know, in a intense interview process for a regional manager, and one of you four are, you know, probably going to be that person. So it's creating even more buzz and excitement from the managers too, to say, hey, you know, I need to be doing the right thing all the time, in order to, you know, potentially be, um, you know, get this position and promoted into this new role. But yeah, that's something I'm putting a lot of thought into. Obviously, right now, just being a couple weeks in, I'm transferring everything over, and there's a whole lot of, you know, stuff. I'm kind of in the weeds with the new store right now, but once the dust gets settled, I'm gonna be looking in that direction. that's priority number two.
So tell us about the new store for a second. What you told me earlier is the decision you made to buy the store based on its not so good financials. Just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's funny. It's actually the last corporate owned store. Corporate it sold it off because they just didn't want to be in the business of running restaurants anymore. They are old and tired of doing it. They just want to, collect royalties, which I don't blame them. And so they had been spending a lot of money on things that they could have easily spent a little bit of extra time on. I mean, they've got three different TV subscriptions that are thousands of dollars that we kind of consolidated into one. And they are not holding the manager accountable for the prime costs. So he was ordering whatever, whenever. They had a huge backstock of inventory when I got in there. And their labor was about 100 hours more a week than it should have been, which is insane. So it was easy to understand. The sales were there. They're doing, almost $1 million in sales and losing, $20,000 a year, and because they're just not running it correctly. So I knew with the sales and what the rent was that it would be very easy for me to come in, thin out the loose ends, I guess, in our employment, and then just make sure that we're not over ordering. And so, I'm in the process of doing that right now. We're already almost down to where we need to be for labor. And then, our cost of goods, immediately went straight down because we know, we didn't have to order that much because we had so much sitting around.
Yeah. No, beautiful. And so what you were telling me earlier is like, yeah, I wouldn't have known that had we had not worked together. Because again, those numbers are a huge part. So what I loved about what you said is that you're like, hey, I look at that store. I knew the prime costs were out of whack, but I knew the sales were there. And I knew if I bought it, I could turn it around and make it profitable very quickly, which makes it a really easy buying decision. So no, I just love that. And last question for you, and again, I want to respect your time and thank you again for joining us, even while you're opening up your new store in the first couple of weeks. But tell me, what would you say to someone who is sitting in your shoes that didn't really know their numbers, that they wanted to grow, they weren't really sure how? What would you say to someone sitting in those shoes right now, in the same spot you were, and they're watching this video and considering working with us?
Yeah, it was tough for me in the beginning. I probably had 2 or 3 calls with you directly, kind of just asking for you to persuade me basically on how to do it, right? Because it's a big deal to to invest your hard-earned money into something that you think that might maybe not work out. But at the end of the day, it really substantially helped me. And it's worth the investment. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of things that are for personal development, and the best thing you can do is invest in yourself. And this is exactly what this is. I invested in the growth of my company, but also my personal development. And I was able to leverage your experience and Dave's experience, and the money has already come back tenfold from what I spent. So it was 100% worth it for me. And even more so now, I just have the confidence in knowing that I have your guys' support as well. I'm just looking forward to continuing to work with you guys and continuing to grow my brand and my personal development as well. And of course, this is kind of a cool thing that happened to me, and it's a franchisee of the year. So I got the plaque for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was able to really shine in my franchise that I'm working with, and that is because I'm taking the leap of faith in buying these stores, but also the leap of faith in getting help when I felt like a lot of people might not think that they need it, but at the end of the day, it is 100% worth it to go out there and get mentors and get coaches. And it's unbelievable how that kind of exceeded what I thought could come out of it.
Beautiful, beautiful. No, and congrats on the franchisee of the year. That is amazing. And if we're gonna take one tagline from that too, the money you spend has come back tenfold. I mean, that's exactly what I tell people will happen. Not everyone believes me, but that's exactly what I tell people when they're talking to us. So thank you so much for sharing that and just allowing us to be part of your success too, man. So thank you so much for being here. And to everyone watching, hey, if you want to be like Kyle, you know where to go. Anything is possible. So we'll see you on the other side.